When you pick up a soft drink, put on a designer shirt, or step into your car, you probably don't think about Nazi Germany. But many brands that we still use today have hidden, uncomfortable ties to that dark era. In this video, we're diving into 8 companies that not only existed during World War II, but directly benefited from their ties to the Nazi regime. Some of these names will surprise you, and others might change how you see certain products forever. Hugo Boss. Hugo Boss today is a high fashion label, synonymous with sharp tailoring, designer suits, and luxury colognes. But its beginnings are much darker. The company was founded by a man named Hugo Ferdinand Boss in 1924, and just a few years later, he joined the Nazi Party. By the 1930s, his small clothing business had become one of the primary producers of uniforms for Hitler's regime. Hugo Boss factories manufactured the infamous black SS uniforms, as well as brown shirts for the stormtroopers and outfits for the Hitler Youth. These weren't just clothes, they became powerful symbols of the Nazi identity. Even more troubling, the company relied on forced labor from prisoners of war and civilians taken from occupied countries. After the war, Hugo Boss himself was tried and fined for his involvement, though the brand survived and grew into the fashion empire we know today. Whenever you see that sleek Hugo Boss logo, it's worth remembering the darker origin stitched into its fabric. Adidas. Adidas is a global powerhouse in sportswear, worn by athletes, celebrities, and everyday people around the world. But its story begins in a small German town with 2 brothers, Adolf and Rudolf Dassler. Both joined the Nazi Party in the 1930s. Their shoe factory initially made footwear for athletes, but as the war began, the factory pivoted to producing supplies for German soldiers. The Dassler brothers weren't just passive participants, they actively benefited from Nazi contracts. Their factory workers included forced laborers taken from Poland and other occupied territories. After the war, the brothers had a falling out. Adi went on to found Adidas, while Rudolf started Puma. Today, Adidas is a symbol of global sports culture, but its origins remind us that even the most everyday brands were entangled in the machinery of war. Bayer. If you've ever taken an aspirin, you know Bayer. It's one of the biggest names in pharmaceuticals. But during the Nazi era, Bayer was part of a chemical megacorporation called IG Farben. IG Farben wasn't just any company, it was a central pillar of the Nazi war effort. This conglomerate produced everything from synthetic fuels to rubber, making the Nazi military more self-sufficient. Most infamously, one of its subsidiaries manufactured Zyklon B, the poison gas used in concentration camps. IG Farben also built a massive factory next to Auschwitz, where it exploited slave labor from camp prisoners under horrific conditions. Thousands died as a direct result of being forced to work there. After the war, IG Farben was broken up, and Bayer re-emerged as its own company. For decades, the company avoided taking responsibility, but in 1995, Bayer finally issued a public apology for its involvement. Today, Bayer is still one of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies, but its history is deeply intertwined with some of the darkest chapters of the 20th century. Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz is known today for sleek luxury vehicles, but during the Nazi era, its parent company Daimler-Benz was a crucial manufacturer for the Third Reich. Instead of producing luxury cars, Daimler-Benz factories churned out aircraft engines, trucks, and other machinery for the German military. The company didn't just shift production, it also relied heavily on forced labor. Over 60,000 men and women, many of them prisoners of war and concentration camp inmates, were forced to work in brutal conditions. Many did not survive. This wasn't an isolated case, it was part of a larger pattern where big corporations profited directly from exploitation. Decades later, Mercedes-Benz officially acknowledged its role during the Nazi era and contributed to compensation funds for survivors. Today, the brand is marketed as a symbol of prestige and innovation. But behind that polished image lies a painful history of war and exploitation. BMW. The name alone brings to mind sleek sports cars and high-performance engineering. But during World War II, BMW didn't make luxury vehicles. Instead, its factories produced engines for German warplanes, including those used by the Luftwaffe. To keep up with production, BMW turned to forced labor on a massive scale. It's estimated that around 30,000 people, prisoners of war, concentration camp inmates, and civilians taken from across occupied Europe, were enslaved in BMW factories. These workers endured terrible conditions, with long hours, starvation-level rations, and constant abuse. It wasn't until the late 1990s that BMW acknowledged this history and contributed to reparations for survivors. Today, the company prides itself on innovation, but every BMW carries a complicated legacy rooted in wartime suffering. IBM is an American company, and you might not expect to see it on this list. But during the 1930s and 40s, IBM's punch card technology was sold to Nazi Germany. These machines allowed the regime to process census data, track populations, and manage logistics with unprecedented efficiency. Historians have shown that this technology directly helped the Nazis identify Jewish populations, organize deportations, and run concentration camps. While IBM has long denied knowing exactly how their machines were used, the evidence suggests that their involvement was much deeper than just selling equipment. This case shows that it wasn't only German companies that profited during the war. International corporations were often entangled as well, whether through active participation or turning a blind eye. Volkswagen. The name literally means the people's car. And that's exactly what Adolf Hitler wanted when he ordered the creation of a cheap, mass-produced car for ordinary Germans. Designed by Ferdinand Porsche, the car would later become the iconic Volkswagen Beetle. But during the war, Volkswagen factories didn't just produce cars for the public. They were repurposed to build military vehicles and equipment for the Nazi war effort. Like many other companies, Volkswagen relied on forced labor, including concentration camp prisoners, to meet production demands. After the war, the Volkswagen Beetle became a symbol of economic recovery in Germany and even a beloved cultural icon around the world, but its origins are inseparable from the Nazi project that gave it life. JAB Holding. Finally, at number 1, we have JAB Holding Company. You might not recognize the name, but you'll definitely know its brands: Krispy Kreme, Pret-a-Manger, Panera Bread, and many others. This German conglomerate is controlled by the Reimann family, one of the wealthiest families in Europe. During the Nazi era, the family openly supported Hitler and benefited from forced labor. The Reimanns built their fortune in part by exploiting prisoners of war and civilians from occupied countries. For decades, this history was kept quiet, but in 2019, the family publicly admitted to their Nazi past after an investigation uncovered the details. They pledged millions of dollars in donations to atone for their history, but the fact remains: some of the food chains you see every day are owned by wealth built on exploitation during the war. These 8 companies remind us that history isn't just in the past, it shapes the world we live in right now. A brand can reinvent itself, but its origins matter. Which of these surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into hidden history, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more.